Okay, Amanda, we're here for a very special discussion on the big picture. Sad news we got. Donald Sutherland, the great Canadian actor, one of the icons of the 1970s, passed away. He was 88 years old. Fascinating career. One of actually the biggest and most influential movie acting careers of his generation, and yet never felt like the true blue star. He wasn't Burt Reynolds, but he was present for so many movies that we love. When I say Donald Sutherland, what do you think of?
I think about how I watched Mr. X from JFK, the famed 20-minute scene just the other night in preparation for an upcoming episode. And I've seen JFK many times, not as many times as you and Chris and Bill. But I was like, I just want to do some refresher. And what that really means is that I just want to fast forward to the 20 minutes when Donald Sutherland pops out of the Lincoln Memorial and just lays out, the entire history of American conspiracy. And Kevin Costner is just sitting next to him on a bench being like, And that, it just 20 minutes of incredible filmmaking, an incredible performance, also a performance and a casting that is in conversation with so much of what he did in the 70s and, sort of the paranoia cinema of that decade. So, one of the all-time greats. And I recommend if you haven't watched Mr. X in a while, it'll just really get your juices going quite again.
Yeah, unusually flexible as an actor. Was as comfortable doing comedy like MASH or like Animal House as he was doing those conspiracy movies like Clute or Don't Look Now, one of the scarier movies of that generation. Never won an Academy Award. He was given an honorary Oscar in 2017. Might be in the conversation for one of the 5 or 10 most significant actors who did not win an Oscar because he's so representative of so many years. Even as recently as, 5 or 6 years ago, was in the Hunger Games films and it was relevant to an entire generation as President Snow. It's kind of hard to pick a favorite performance for me. He's a big part of the generation that I venerate, obviously, in the 70s. He also had this great thing that so many actors of that time did, where they had, at the height of their commercial appeal, they were like, I'll do a Bertolucci movie. Yeah. I'll just go do a Fellini movie and I don't care. And you could make the case that like in competitive Hollywood, that wasn't a good move. But he was like, I want to do it.
In the 70s, it was also like a little bit easier. But they were all fairly flexible. One of the first things that comes to mind also, if you have not read Jane Fonda's autobiography, they obviously worked together. I think the personal lives became entangled, but he was just kind of living large and like a big personality and icon of that decade. But then also I was like, oh yeah, remember when he was in that Hugh Grant TV show like 4 years ago?
Yeah, The Undoing.
Remember when he
Emmy
was
nominated?
Yeah, remember when he was Mr. Bennett in Joe Wright's Pride and Prejudice, which is wonderful. And they have that final scene where he's like, I could not, let you go to anyone less worthy. Yeah, it's interesting that you brought up JFK because that represented, I think, like a transition from him as like a kind of leading man or, a person who's like kind of at the center of intrigue in a story to a special effect for movies, a supporting player who in movies like Backdraft or Outbreak, where he would come in and he would just be extremely authoritative about whatever was going on. Right. He conferred a kind of like mixture of like military and professorial. But in the 70s, he had like kind of like a weird, like slimy dad quality. You know, it's the dad from Ordinary People, and he's so sensitive and so destroyed by the end of that movie. And Don't Look Now, he's so tortured. In Animal House, he's like the pervy professor, who shows his ass. One movie that I wanted to highlight for people that is very underrated, that he's incredible in, that is a great movie for movie lovers. I don't know if you've seen this one. It's actually quite hard to watch these days. It's called Alex in Wonderland. Have you seen this movie? I don't know what this is.
It's written and directed by Paul Mazursky. It's the first movie that Paul Mazursky made after Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice. Okay. And Mazursky was a part of this cohort of new Hollywood filmmakers. And it's kind of a romantic clef. Like, it's kind of like, what if I made a movie about myself as like a hot shit director who's also a guy living in LA trying to raise a family who's trying to make his next movie. So like in real time, Mazursky is chronicling his own angst. Obviously, it's a very like up your own ass movie. It's not a big hit, but it's shot by Laszlo Kovacs. It's Donald Sutherland and Ellen Burstyn as his wife. It was produced by MGM as like a big movie. The poster of the movie is literally the MGM poster, but with Donald Sutherland's face where the lion should be. Very clever movie, and he's amazing. He's in every still of the movie. And I really, really like it a lot. So I would recommend people check that out. There's a lot of movies in the 70s, though, that are kind of lost to time that he was in. Little Murders, he takes over for 10 minutes. FTA is a fascinating movie. He just was like, he's not they don't make him like they used to anymore, but it's kind of like if Philip Seymour Hoffman was actually like the lead of a movie for 10 years.
He walks into any movie like from 78 or whatever on, and you're like, oh, okay, something here has just shifted, and now we're gonna take this seriously for a bit.
Yeah. And also a scion of Hollywood, his son Kiefer, obviously. You a Kiefer Sutherland fan?
Sure.
Yeah. Did you watch 24?
24 is very big in my house.
Okay.
In the Zach community.
I see.
So,
did he feel that those methods that he used
yes,
to get information were viable?
Politics,
okay,
and you can hear about it on JMO. We're just waiting for his invitation.
I'll call him as soon as we're done here. So yeah, pour one out for Donald Sutherland. A great movie career.